Sego Siwakwego, good morning, everyone. Chief Don Miracle from the Mohawks to the Bay of Quinte. We are now in session in our council chambers on July the 17th, 2024. And for those who have been joining us online, thank you very much for your patience and waiting. We had some important in-camera issues to deal with this morning. And so thank you for joining. And so in the council chambers, we have Councillor Curtis Brandt. Just to give them a wave so they can see you. We have Councillor Linda Leween. We have Councillor Chris Miracle. We have Councillor Ogwari Chase Brandt. And Chris Miracle is just coming in. Chris, do you want to give them a wave there? Councillor Chris Brandt is now coming back into his seat. Joining us, then we have our Chief Administrative Officer, Sherry Miracle. We have the Director of Operations, Angela Miracle. We have our Secretary to Council, Shelley Bowden, in attendance, and Amzie Miracle, my assistant. And Amzie will be going to another job on July the 19th. And so I want to, at this time, I would like to thank Amzie for her services in my office. And we wish Amzie all the best in her future. And just keep in touch, Amzie. And we have Erin Ferranti is not feeling well, I understand, today, and so she's not going to be able to join us at council today. And so we have an agenda in front of you. We met with our youth council this morning. We have an agenda before you, and we need a motion to review and adopt the agenda.
I'll make the motion, Chief.
There are some items that have to be added to the agenda, and Councillor Chris Miracle would like to add an increase to the mortgage for a maximum of $400,000. That will need direction from council. And then in private, there'll be an issue concerning the splash pad that will go in private. And we have, it's on the agenda, okay. So with those two items added to the agenda, are there that's at the economic development meeting, okay. So you want to just add number 11 there? That will be increased mortgage amount. To 400,000. And the other item will go into the private minutes. So do we have a motion then to adopt the agenda? It's been moved by Ogwari.
Second, Chief.
Seconder Curtis. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Okay, we have the minutes of July the 3rd. The council met in the council chambers at 9:30 a.m. I was present, Ogwari was present, Curtis was present, Aaron was present, Chris Miracle present, Linda Leween present, Aaron Ferranti was present, Sherry Miracle present, CAO, Angela Miracle, Director of Operations present, Amzie Miracle, my assistant, was present. Councillor Chris Brandt was absent due to employment obligations. Motion 1 was moved by Ogwari and seconded by Aaron to adopt the agenda. The motion was carried. Motion 2 was moved by Aaron and seconded by Ogwari that the council minutes of June the 19th, 2024 be approved. The motion was carried. Motion 3 was moved by Curtis and seconded by Chris Miracle for Linda Willoween to attend the follow-up ISC Indigenous Services Canada lobbying meeting on July the 22nd, 2024. The motion was carried. An action item, Sherry, is to follow up with Chris Brandt to confirm attendance at the July 22nd, 24 ISC lobbying meeting in Toronto. Motion 4 was moved by Chris and seconded by Curtis to approve the request to use the MBQ logo on a sign along with the QR code to the MBQ history page at Glanmore House Glenmore National Historic Site in Belleville, Ontario. The motion was carried. Aaron Ferranti abstained from voting. Motion 5 was moved by Chris and seconded by Aaron to approve the reimbursement of $10,738.41 to Colin Miracle for the installation of 2 poles, relocation of transformer, and installation of an anchor within the road allowance paid to Ontario Hydro. The motion was carried. Motion 6 was moved by Aguirre and seconded by Curtis that the hydro connection at 39 Salmon River Road was reviewed. The sketches from Ontario for Hydro 1 were reviewed, and so the council approved the proposed location of the poles, anchors, conductors, and equipment as identified on the sketch on the Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. The motion was carried. Motion 17 was moved by Linda and seconded by Aguirre to approve to sign the tiered response agreement with County of Hastings Emergency Management Services. Can we just put Emergency Management Services instead of EMS so committee understands what that is? Okay, that motion was carried. Motion 8 was moved by Linda and seconded by Chris Miracle to approve the business registration for Kabanish Inc., the owner, Brian Barberstock. The motion was carried. Motion 9 was moved by Aaron and seconded by Linda to approve the business registration renewal of Waho Equal Source, the owner, Ryan Barberstock. The motion was carried. Motion 10 was moved by Aaron and seconded by Curtis to approve signing the letter for Robert McLeod requesting permission to harvest in our traditional harvesting area. The motion was carried. Motion 11 was moved by Aguirre and seconded by Chris Miracle to approve the signing of the sales agreement for lots in the industrial park with Thomas Joseph Miracle. The motion was carried. Motion 12 was moved by Aguirre and seconded by Chris Miracle that the land here under described and situated on the Tyendinaga Mohawk territory be allotted to Thomas Joseph Miracle in accordance with Section 20, subsection 1 of the Indian Act, Revised Statutes of Canada, 1985, and that should all be capitalized, RSC. The land description that was sold to Thomas was the whole of Lot 10, Tyendinaga Industrial Park, Concession 1, as shown on plan number Canada Land Survey Record 95029, and that should all be capitalized. And also was sold was the whole of Lot 15 in the Industrial Park, Concession 1, as shown on plan number 95029, and that capitalized Canada Land Survey Record. The motion was carried. Motion 13 was moved by Aguirre and seconded by Curtis to schedule CN's Indigenous Reconciliation Action Plan presentation at the next regular council meeting. Motion was carried. Moved by Curtis and seconded by Aguirre to host an Economic Development Commission open house on September the 17th, 2024. The motion was carried. Motion 15 was moved by Chris Miracle and seconded by Linda Lewin that the home support home maintenance grass cutting agenda item be deferred to the next meeting when a full council is present. That item, it should say be deferred.
It already says deferred.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, okay. Motion 16 was moved by Aaron and seconded by Linda to approve the revisions to the Emergency Home Repair Program Incentive Policy. The motion was carried. Councillor Chris Miracle declared a conflict of interest. Motion 17 was moved by Aaron and seconded by Linda Lewin that where the Ministry of Children's and Community and Social Services has issued a call inviting First Nations to submit an expression of interest to deliver the Ontario Disability Support Program commencing the fiscal year and beyond. Therefore, be it resolved, the Mohawk Council of the Bay of Quinte support the submission and implementation of ODSP in 2024. It should say the implementation to administer.
This is the wording that was provided by Sam Miracle.
Okay. But I would still clarify that it's for the administration of it.
be part of the implementation of it, would be to administer it and deliver.
This is for submission and implementation.
Or for the delivery of?
To deliver. So it's in the first paragraph.
Okay,
And again, this was wording provided directly by Sam.
okay. There's no harm to implementation. I would have just clarified deliver because that's what council's approving.
Yep, it does say to deliver, right in the first paragraph too.
That's the whereas, but the resolve, it should be in there to deliver. Because we're not making the policy, we're just delivering it. Motion 18 was moved by Curtis and seconded by Gory to approve to pay Derek Wong invoice 857 in the amount of $12,676.16 for long-term care agreement and various economic development ventures. Again, I think we should, if we're going to cite what one of the expenses are, we should cite them all. Because it creates rumors that, well, all that's just for that long-term care, and it may not be. So we shouldn't be vague on the economic development venture legal expenses. We should list them all what they are. That motion was carried. Motion 19 was moved by Curtis and seconded by Gory to approve to pay Miller Thompson invoice 400-8651 in the amount of $34,582.19 for corporate matters January to May 2024, and invoice number 400-8648 in the amount of $6,995 for battery storage project partnership. The motion was carried. Motion 20 was moved by Aaron and seconded by Linwood to approve the Indigenous Services Canada Amendment number 58, 62, 63, 64 for the 2024-2025 Indigenous Services Amendment number 65, 66, 67, 68 for the 2024-25 ISC Amendment, and 69, 70 for the 2024-2025 ISC Amendment, and 59, 16, 61, 23, and 24. The motion was carried. And so this is just to provide additional money for the community for various programs and services. And motion 21 was moved by Ogwari and seconded by Curtis that this meeting go into private at 10:47. The motion was carried. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections to the minutes that have not already been enunciated?
I don't see any, Chief.
Chris? Linda? Curtis?
I wasn't keeping.
Okay, and okay then, can we have a motion to accept the minutes as corrected?
A motion.
Ogwari, is there a seconder?
I'll second.
And Linda? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? And the only thing I would say is that we have agreed to set some dates at this meeting. Maybe better pen them in here. Or do them now while we're reviewing the minutes. One was to schedule a meeting with Indigenous Reconciliation Action Plan with the Canada National Railway Corporation. Pardon?
But they will be coming on the 21st of August.
August 21st. At what time, Shelley? So, in your phone, in your calendar on your phone, look, go to the 21st of August. So note that no, we'll just put a note in there that council, is that date good to council?
It's a regular scheduled council.
Okay.
Meeting any.
But you're good with them coming on that date?
I'll be there, yeah.
Okay, let's have a motion for clarity then. Who will move that we add it to that council, the 21st?
I'll move, Chief.
Moved by Linda, who'll second it.
I'll second it.
Chris Brandt, anybody opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. We were going to host the Economic Development Open House on September 17th. That's been decided. And we were going to defer the issue of home support maintenance for the grass cutting agenda to when there's a meeting of full council. We do not have a full council. Aaron is not present. So do you want to defer this to another meeting or do you want to deal with it today?
I don't think the program of council.
It's on the agenda.
I don't want anything.
It's item number 7, so just think of what you're going to do there, because you did say you wanted a full council. But grass does need to be cut. So is there any other items in the agenda that need follow-up?
Yeah, that other one is to confirm about Chris if he wanted to go to the ISC lobby meeting with us.
The date on that meeting has been changed, correct, Chief?
I spoke with Michael Byrne today. He's available in the morning on the 22nd. And he's going to get some information back from Ottawa as to what they're prepared to do, because the Ontario region does not, at this point in time, have sufficient funds to address the obligations under the Water Settlement Act, the Water Settlement Agreement, as it relates to more community infrastructure. So there are conversations going on with Ottawa. During the AFN on the second day, the advisory committee, I did attend that meeting. It was all the regional directors across Canada. Michael Byrne didn't show up. So Ontario was represented by Nico Paul, who is the senior director for Capital. And so Michael is going to give me a call sometime today after he talks with Ottawa. I'll follow up in that lunch hour to find out whether the meeting will take place in the morning. So is council available to go on the 22nd in the morning? He's available up until noon, and our meeting was scheduled for the afternoon.
I thought it was,
all day.
yeah.
So
it
did
was-
we.
No, you scheduled 10 till 2, and we said we probably didn't need that long.
So anyway,
Or 9 till
it'll probably be 9 till noon instead of the
Well,
other
then,
time.
if he can still do it, then
I think we should keep the meeting and keep the pressure on the department, because these are very important
Okay.
issues for housing and for health. You know, water is the cornerstone of public health.
so then we keep the meeting then.
Yeah, but just the time will change, but he's going to check with Ottawa to see if they have something substantive to report, because we don't want them to go to a meeting where they have nothing to report. But I don't want to defer it into the future either. I want to nail them down.
Administration is working on those packages as we speak, so they'll be pulled together
And there's going
hopefully
to be
this
more
week.
items added on about the fire hall
Yes.
deficit, the fire deficit, and any other ISC program deficits there are.
Yes.
We need to get that together. That's
Yeah.
been instructed, that those instructions came from council a number of months ago, that any deficit is a matter of underfunded program. That's a standard procedure to draft those letters, to articulate what it is. We don't need to be prompting the staff each and every time. That should just be a
Yeah,
normal procedure.
no, it is going to be part of this
Okay.
package. And I checked in with Chris, and Chris is not able to attend on the 22nd.
Okay, that's fine. So those minutes are fine then. The next item on the agenda. TMC approved the minutes. Upcoming meetings, I have the Chiefs Committee on Health. And that's going to be on the 24th and 25th. And have I got a motion for that already, Shelley? Yes. Okay, so that's done. Does the council have any upcoming meetings? Any of the councilors? Okay. And we already have a motion, I believe, for the 22nd, that meeting. Okay, so we're good there. So then it's already scheduled. the DFO lake monitoring. Who motioned to adopt the agenda? I didn't write it down here. Gloria and Curtis. Okay, thank you. Just note these are already scheduled. The next item is the Department of Fisheries and Oceans Lake Ontario Annual Monitoring Authorization Letter. And they're seeking authorization and signature on an attached letter to issue to John Midwood, research scientist with DFO. And this is something that they've been doing on an ongoing basis for several years. So does council approve to continue giving them authorization to monitor exposed embayments and open coasts in Lake Ontario? This is not in the Bay of Quinte, it's Lake Ontario. Is there a motion?
I'll motion that, Chief.
Moved by Chris Brandt. Is there a seconder?
So do these guys here work with our environmental people?
They're working out in Lake Ontario.
It's Lake
So what they're doing is they're keeping an eye on invasive species. They do electroshocking, like they harvest walleye. That we did give them permission to electroshock fish so that they could take the eggs, hatch them, and into the fisheries that we went to up in White Lake.
Well, that was M&R, not DFO.
That was M&R. Well, but these guys here work along with M&R. These guys, the ocean fishery. Andy Todd is the head of the oceans and fisheries. He's the one to get them the eggs to take up to.
Andy Todd was M&R.
His oceans and fisheries. Because we sit on, myself and Megan sit on the what is it? The eastern. I can't even remember what it's called. But we sit on the board with them, and we get updates on the fisheries and stuff that they perform.
Because there is climate change impacts occurring on the Great Lakes. There can be water levels that might affect, there can be temperature issues, there can be pollutants, there can be all kinds of things that can impact fish. So it's a good thing that it does want somebody paying attention to what's happening with the health of the fish.
Basically, all they're doing is they're just monitoring.
So it's been moved by Chris to give authorization and sign the authorization support letter to DFO. Is there for Lake Ontario? Chris?
I'll second that.
Chris Miracle. Is anybody opposed? Any council members opposed? Seeing none, then the authorization to sign this letter has been granted. The motion is carried.
And that they work together up there. Right.
So Ethan Andrew Doreen has requested that we sign a sustenance letter, and this item has to be discussed in private. So we'll defer that item to the private agenda.
It says on the form,
There's a note here.
right on the agenda form.
It says in private in bold letters on my docket here. So that will be moved to private. So the lands officer, Amy Smart, has issued a letter. There are no residency bylaws in place to protect the land and residents of the Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. We do not have our own land code, so we follow the Indian Act, which states that this land was set apart for Indians in the lands department. I've encountered non-status people claiming they rent from a member, non-status people living in homes that are in an estate, the squatters, and then moving other non-status onto the estate property, non-status moving onto their status son-in-law's property just because they have room, non-status living in a house that is owned by members and has a mortgage, non-status trying to have a survey done on status members' property. There are many instances of members allowing multiple trailers onto their property with no mention of whom they're renting to. These non-status all benefit from residing on here, the water, the garbage, Ontario Works, grocery, gifting, cards, etc. The recommendation is to implement a residency bylaw and create a bylaw officer position and a committee. Identify who your residents are, educate your members. Lisa Merkelman setting a meeting to discuss issues on what the next steps should be. And I totally agree with this recommendation.
So do I.
So the request is to set a date so we can begin the discussion, and I think the council should pass a bylaw. We have 17 drafts of a residency bylaw going back many years, and every time we go to the community, there's a great controversy about having a law. A law is needed. Chris?
So when we meet next, can we have detailed, updated packages on previous residential bylaws that have been put forward, so we know where we're starting from?
Well, we've had
Basically,
these bylaws were looked at. Alan Pratt reviewed all those
I
different
know,
submissions.
I know, but then the new council hasn't seen all that,
Yeah.
so this council should get up to speed on that for that meeting, and then at that meeting, we'll set a date to
Okay.
reach community.
So do you want copies of all the draft bylaws?
Yeah, I think
All
we should
17
review
drafts?
that.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
wanna
have a
see it.
motion. Let's have a
I'd like
motion.
that, Chief, just so I can be familiar.
Okay, let's have a motion to furnish all the bylaws and also the legal opinions on those bylaws to the next council. But the request is to set a date when we can begin to have the discussion. So I would like one of the staff to read up on that and be prepared to answer the questions that council has.
At the next meeting?
Well, whatever date the council decides to have that
Okay.
meeting, the request is for a meeting, so look at your calendars, what day. That will require a special meeting of council because
Yes.
it's going to be involved, it can't be just an add-on to council.
That's right.
And the other thing is the council needs to all show up to have this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you pen this in your calendar and that you show up on the day, because this is very important. Chris?
Can we have a meeting where we gather everything and then we'll set the meeting? Otherwise, we might
Well,
set a
we-
meeting and we don't have all the information yet.
No, we can begin, but we need to set the date. I'm just stressing, it can be that kind of informal where you're reviewing stuff, but it's important that everybody attends. So look at your calendar,
Okay.
and when you make that commitment, don't let anything,
Chris, would it be okay if we send the package out for you to pre-read and then we can set the date and
At the
have the
next-
meeting?
yeah.
That way it's not this meeting and then another
Okay.
meeting. Let's just send you the reading material so you
Okay.
can read up on it and then be
Okay,
prepared
my
for the
schedule-
meeting.
Okay, for terms of planning my schedule can fill up very quickly. So I like to book a meeting when, how long do you think, Sherry, it'll take to get?
To get everything sent out.
Well, let's make a motion to have the material, have all of the draft bylaws sent out and the legal opinions sent out to the council before the next meeting. Then at the next meeting, we'll put this on the agenda to schedule a date when we'll meet with staff to have a discussion.
Keep in mind, you want everybody here. My hip surgery is on the 26th.
Okay.
Right?
Of August,
Of August,
yes.
yeah.
Of August, the 26th. So, yeah, I'm gonna be barely walking around for probably 2 weeks after that.
You can do Zoom. Right?
You
I can
can,
do Zoom, yeah.
Zoom,
but,
you go-
for me to sit in one spot
Yeah.
for any amount of time.
No, that's fine. Zoom is fine. Just to be available.
well, we can try and get the information package out to you within the next couple of weeks.
This is how I think
Because
it
we
should-
have to research it as well and get all that together. And then we can set a date for this meeting.
Like,
I'll make the motion, Chief.
Moved by Curtis to have the staff send out all of the draft 17 bylaws, so there could be 18 with last
Hopefully
time.
we have all 17 handy.
So there were 17 draft bylaws, and some of them were lawyer changes, so draft, and then some of them were submissions from the community.
Yeah, we'll have to talk to Lisa.
And when that's Sherry, when everything, if it's after the 26th, best to
And just
send
note-
me personal like message, like text message or something.
I would anticipate it would be before the 26th.
And-
Okay.
That
and
gives us
just-
a
and
month.
just note that Chris has given us notice that he's going to have a surgery on August the 26th, you said, Chris?
Yes.
He's given council notice, so he'll have to join by Zoom when he's able.
If it's after that.
After that. If
Yeah.
it's before, we'll know.
Can you note that in the minutes to let him know that he's given us notice about that? He's scheduled for surgery on the 26th, and he'll have to join by Zoom call. Okay, it's been moved by Curtis to have the staff furnish all
I'll
the
sign it,
bylaws
Chief.
and the legal opinions on these bylaws to the council before the next council meeting. And it'll go on the agenda then to set a date at the next meeting. Moved by Curtis and seconded by Chris. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Curtis and Chris Brandt. Item number 7, the grass cutting. It was moved by Chris Miracle and Samuel to defer the home support its grass cutting agenda to the next meeting when full council is present. So how do you want to deal with this? If Sherry's already given us a budget. We know that we have an aging population, and many of our people have quite a few health issues that may prevent them from cutting their own grass. Some of it could be poverty, some of it could be health, some of it could be maybe if the family are not around, or some of it could be there's no family support. So we need to, and there's some examples here. The senior client with disability has a rental unit of $1,200 a month from their rental unit. In addition to their own pension, only requires $300 on rental income to cover costs. Profit of $300 a month. Example 2, a senior 55 single with making $90,000 annually. Example 3, senior working with less than $20,000. So is this going to be income tested is the question.
So did you want to defer this to full council? Because it was deferred last time because
So
full
do you want
council
full
wasn't
council, or
here.
do you want to deal with this today? Do we have a solution?
It's a discussion.
Do we have a solution? Do we know the budget impact? Do we know how much money we
We're
have
just
to
giving
appropriate
you a
from where?
briefing on the program that's currently in place, so you can see, the things that we need to discuss, and decisions, and then we would look at whether there's a budget for what you propose.
I think there's going to be a lot of talk about this, and there's a lot of different variations that come into play with this. Like I have stated before that our elders over their lifetime has worked their butts off to give themselves a good pension so that they're able to live well enough to have these rules state that, well, I'm sorry, we can't cut your grass because you make too much money. And I don't think that's right. I think we should be looking at taking care of our elders. We've gone away from being who we are to what the white man's world has made us become, or we have gained from that, or not gained, but we have learned from that. First of all, are the elders able to cut their own grass? Are they an amputee? Well, we should be. No matter how much they make, we should be helping them out. If they don't have family, just a lot of different variations is going to affect, in any decision that we make is going to be a right one and it's going to be a wrong one, I feel.
Okay, so maybe I should read this briefing note that's here. It says the aging population is growing year after year, creating more demands on community services that are provided through the home support program. Currently, the limited budget supports the following: Meals on Wheels, group transportation program via bus, leased vehicle, several social and recreational programs, emergency responses, lifeline support, friendly visiting security check program, client intervention and assistance program, coordination of income tax, a home health maintenance program. Our goal is to ensure clients who need it most have access to affordable services that support them to remain in their home. To accomplish this goal, Home Support coordinates and offers subsidized programs and services to reduce the fees charged to clients that include home maintenance lawn care program. There are very few CSS agencies in this area that offer lawn care services of this kind, and the few that do typically only coordinate a connection for a client who must pay the service provider directly and pay the full cost of the service. If Home Support were to charge full cost for this service to a senior, it would be in the range of $30 an hour to cover worker, fuel, maintenance, and equipment vehicle. This is not affordable for those in the low income category. Currently, Home Support's only charging $5 per worker per hour of service. The program was never meant to operate as a for-profit program. The intent was always to help seniors offset some of their household expenses, enabling them to stay in their home for as long as possible. In 2022, we were struggling to keep up our lawn care service, as we had 55 clients utilizing the service with 7 clients on a wait list. At this time, we had a few complaints about not getting the service often enough to keep on top of the lawn care needs. Typically, this occurs early in the season while the grass burns off, and we would try to take a few more clients from the wait list. Within the limited budget that is to cover salaries, benefits, program costs, administration, Home Support can only accommodate fuel, wages, and maintenance for 1 vehicle, 1 trailer, a storage shed, and 2 mowers. Seasonal workers that have seasonal workers that have the skills needed to drive with a trailer can also be a challenge to find at times. Due to the limited funding for seasonal vehicle workers, mowers, and maintenance needs, it has been determined that we have the capacity to support 40 clients in a season. Any senior who calls in for our services typically indicate they can't afford it. Those who call for lawn care service indicate they have no family support and have a variety of health issues that prevent them from doing their own lawn, or the health of their spouse who used to do it has declined or they've passed on. Most will state they cannot afford a mower to pay someone to cut their lawn. Many seniors have an income larger than those on Ontario Works and those on Ontario Disability Pension. However, we know that it still can be a struggle for seniors on a fixed income. The program put in place utilized the same process as the Angel Tree as a means to determine eligibility. The last time statistical information was reviewed for membership was in 2018. The number of seniors on reserve, 55 and older, at that time was 629. This did not account for 18 plus having physical challenges. This information is collected by members, and although we typically have 2 to 3 of these type of requests annually for support for individuals 18 plus with physical challenges living in their own home, it is another group that are eligible for support through our services. A few years ago, AIAI did lobby for increased funding support for PSWs, nursing, some services that offer along the some professional services. At that time, the outcome of the First Nation was an increase of approximately $150,000 in additional funding support for Homeless Community Care program with a focus on PSW and nursing services. While lawn care services is important, it is not an essential service. I don't know if I'd agree with that or not, because to me, there's West Nile virus and you don't want mosquitoes. We are First Nations, so with many members, both 55 and 55 having chronic health issues because of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, dementia, mental health, addiction issues, and other related conditions. We always strive to serve more clients, but ultimately it reduces the quality of service. Given the statistics and growing demands for this program, we knew we did not have enough resources to provide services to everyone who is a senior. We had to determine who needs subsidized service the most and which senior clients could be referred to the local lawn care service for the same support. To give you perspective, I've included a couple of examples of clients requesting service. Example 1, a senior with disability has a rental unit with an income of $1,200 a month from their annual rental unit in addition to their own pension. Only requires $300 of rental income to cover the cost profit for $900 a month. Example 2, seniors who are 55, single female working with making $90,000 annually. Example 3, the senior single female with an income of less than $20,000. TMC consider the service at the band. It is essential or an emergency need for most people. How can we realistically continue to support every person who's a senior or who has a disability with over 629 members qualifying under just age and disability requirement? Operating and limiting resources is not appropriate to put a senior on a wait list who is truly surviving on poverty income while supporting other seniors who are still working or having revenue streams that can be utilized to cover these costs. To prioritize clients who are older, adults, varying degrees of illness, with the focus is on who can afford to use local businesses and who really cannot afford to use them. The service has been in place since 1994, and although beneficial, changes are inevitable, and most clients have had to source their own lawn care needs from somewhere prior to calling for us for the service. We have noticed that some of the previous clients who did not qualify but still have had their lawn care needs met. At the time of starting up 30 years ago, there were no other lawn care businesses in the area, which also changed. If we are not going to stay status quo, I think best alternative, given 30 years of experience with running this program, would be to offer a small subsidy only in hopes of that it will encourage family, neighbors, and friends to support seniors. I would still recommend that it be income-based. Thank you for your time and continued support. I think that the complaints about not getting access to this service really speaks to the benefit this service does provide. Tracy Bennett, June the 25th. So I don't think the intent of the counselors bringing this forward was to be critical of staff. It was just to admit that we're a growing community and there's more need there that's not being met. It wasn't directed as a criticism of anything or anybody. So is this something that the Transitional Support Fund can assist with people that have to hire somebody that have low income? Because that is income tested.
Our programs are actually utilized fully to capacity in all the services that are currently being provided.
So we've got an additional $40,000 in transitional support funding. All you need to do is ask Samantha, is this one of the services that they can pay for?
Yes, I can do that. I can look into that, but that money is already utilized in transitional funding for people homelessness. It's being utilized fully in the homelessness area.
So the money's all gone then?
It will be totally used.
Because that's supposed to last till March of next year.
The
If it's
demand
all
is
gone,
high
then
there.
they need to let me know. Then we need to schedule another meeting with Denise Cole, the deputy minister, and
But in
and the
terms of
minister.
utilizing it for grass cutting services, the need for homelessness is being utilized fully in that area.
Go ahead.
I want to acknowledge Chris for always thinking of our seniors. But that being said, I think we have to have a modern day interpretation when it comes to taking care of our elders. There was once a time where they didn't have pensions or even a chance at jobs, but now we know for a fact that some of our elders have done quite well and good for them. But if they're pushing 3 and 4 pensions and $100,000 a year, and then you got a young mom over here, she can't afford formula or the gas or a mower. We get after her to cut her grass, the subdivision. I think we have to have means testing. And I think it does come into question that it doesn't matter how much you make, we're going to cut your grass. No, that's money we can't help over here or someone else. So I still say we have to have some sort of means testing.
So there has to be means testing. Does anybody oppose that? So means testing, so there'd have to be an application for the service, which I presume there is.
There is already that occurring now.
So then some of the people that have been turned down is because they didn't have enough money or they didn't want to fill out an application.
Possibly.
And I like Tracy's idea too, to put out and give an incentive for those people.
Yeah.
Like, example, for myself, I have a lawnmower. I go around the neighborhood and cut people's grass for nothing. I know there's other people in the community that would do that if you just paid for their gas. So if there was like an incentive program for some of those people that would go and help our elders, I think that's a great idea.
No, I live in suburbs. I cut
Okay.
people's grass and plow a lot of people's driveways for nothing.
The cost, I think we need to put out an application and see how many people do qualify. That first want this service and do qualify, so we can do some planning and some financial planning. And maybe there's some money we can take either from some of our interest off of our investments or some of our open LP money and just top up this program. And Tracy's suggesting that if they're low income and they have hire a private contractor to do it, that we will just give them a subsidies per year to enable them to help them out. And if this is a service, I think is a service that we could see transitional support funding. I'd like a memo from Samantha to say the funds are all committed, and we'll see if we can put this before
If I might add,
for additional money.
I don't believe that the service isn't already providing that service to those in need. I believe that that's already occurring. I think what's been put forward is that we provide grass cutting across the board to the over 600 seniors
Okay.
we have living here. I think that was the request to look into and to consider.
Yeah, but not all 629 seniors or community members with a disability or whatever. They don't all need it, because like I stated before, Dad is pushing 83, and he'd rather sit on a lawnmower and come and cut my grass even. So there's guys out there, there's seniors out there that don't need it, but
So-
then those. How do we identify the ones that really need it?
That's what I think we need to do.
And
Their
that-
the health part about it needs to be involved, as well as the program officer.
I believe it'd be referrals from our people who actually go into the homes and help with seniors and elder
Like the
care.
PSWs and those kind of people.
PSWs, they make those referrals.
We get numbers?
Well, the other thing she's saying, in order to manage this effectively and properly, they can take on 40 clients. And we know right well that people's health as they get older changes. And so we know that we built more houses in the community and people are aging. And so what is happening with the demographics of the community? Because that's going to impact the pressure on the need for this funding.
I think
So we need some kind of administrative assessment done.
like
Chris?
like Linda had mentioned, we have to everybody is turning in this day and age, everybody's for themselves. How many of the seniors or those with the disabilities, they've got to have family here where everybody's related to everybody. And like Linda said, if there's some kind of incentive that we just you get your nephew to cut my grass, well, they're pay for their fuel type of thing so that they're not out that particular money. But it's coming a little bit ridiculous that, like, I mean, people don't help each other even as family. Like, I think we've got to get back to lending a hand as they used to when I was growing up.
I can tell you, Chris, my brother Danny cuts the neighbor's grass and never charges anything. They
I
plowing,
cut
they help
Dad.
out.
I help Dad. I help my next door neighbor Joe, and I even go across the road to and Ruby's place, and just because they're right there. I mean, if there were more around, then
I think this
I'd
would
help
be-
out myself. But
And I also think this would be a great opportunity, especially when we're just now talking to the youth. They're looking for funding. They also need that connection with our elders. I think this is a great opportunity that should be able to marry the youth with this program.
The other area where there's a need is that there's nobody to shovel the snow to the holding tanks when the water delivery trucks.
same thing with
It's got to deliver
with the
water.
snow removal.
And so
We
with the
have
water
kids.
delivery, they can't deliver water. They can't if it's not shoveled to where they have to put the water in the tank, they just don't get water. Then I get phone calls. And some of these people are physically not capable of shoveling snow or cutting grass. We need to get a handle on what do those numbers look
we
like.
need numbers.
And
We're gonna
and
have to
many
figure
can't
out
afford
how
to
to
hire,
do
and
that.
how many cannot afford to hire someone.
Like who had mentioned it? Somebody had mentioned go through CWC, and because they're out in home care,
Well, we have to look at our membership list. We have to look at those who are over 55. Then we need to, it's a coordinated effort. We're
There
gonna
needs
have
to be an administrative review and a recommendation on what do the demographics look like.
But I do love the idea of linking some, like our youth council, pulling together some sort of program to engage the youth. There are lots of other opportunities and avenues to bringing community together
For
for services.
Sherry, when I was a student going to high school and public school, they used to hire summer students. I was one of them. I've cut grass. We dug post holes. We put fences in. We dug trenches for drainage and all that kind of stuff. The youth were, oh, well, this might be liability. That might be liability. They might get hurt there.
Scraping down the,
We painted. We did all of that. But the law has
Guardrails.
changed so much. There's
Doesn't
so
make it
limited
more
amount of
students.
things you can ask them to do. Now, if a kid can cut grass at home, why can't they cut grass for a senior? If we pay them under student.
Like a student incentive. I do also want to add that we do now have on reserve businesses that rely on those that work for their business as well. So we need
But
to
it's just-
consider that as
that's
well.
great for people who can afford that service. But what about those people that
But
can't afford?
but I'm just thinking, like, we don't want to drive those businesses out of business either, right? So there needs to be a healthy balance.
Or
Another consideration.
and Tracy suggested that, maybe some of these ones that are challenged, they can't get anywhere, we can give them some help to get a contract.
Or have it, like, you know how we have for the medical? We have a list of volunteers that will drive people around that don't ask to be paid. Why can't we do the same thing for the lawn cutting? Because I put my name on that list.
I think it's important to know the community demographics and what is the true need, right? If we're just gonna start to, like, really, is there many who aren't getting the service that really should have the service? We don't know.
Okay, let's direct that there be an administrative review and brought back to council within the next council day.
I think we're gonna need a little bit longer than that, Chief.
How much?
You can't do it in 4 days.
No.
What numbers?
Let's say
We need
the
some
middle of
time.
August then?
That gives us a month. Yeah, so let's look at a month from now, so that not this next one, but the following.
And that'll give you enough time.
Then you
People
won't
are
have
on
to cut so much
vacations.
grass anyway because it'll be on its way out.
There'd be a coordination of the different areas to try to get some idea of numbers.
Okay, why don't we put maybe another $25,000 in home supports targeted for grass cutting so they have some resources to work with?
Well, let's look at the need first, and then, yes, we can look at that at the same time.
But what's the resources? You have one mower, one person,
Yeah.
or maybe two, I don't know. I think there might be a student or someone that brought up. But if you don't have the equipment, what good is that gonna do?
Can't you
That's why
buy
I was
equipment?
thinking that
Incentive?
that in the incentive and that list, so that you can call, hey, somebody can call me, hey, Linda, are you busy? Buddy down the road needs his grass cut. Can you go and do that? That kind of thing. I think that would,
Like put a call out for people who would be willing to help,
yeah.
like volunteers. We could do a call out for volunteers and start there and see how that goes, and pull together that list. But we have to they have to be able to have a driver's license to drive a trailer and
They might have to
well,
have equipment if.
equipment.
If the
Well,
doesn't have the
not really. My uncle has a lawnmower and he has a little trailer and he doesn't have a license. You don't need a license for that.
to drive some on the
I drive
road.
my tractor all over the ridge.
No,
I don't have a
she's
license.
she's talking current term.
Oh, no, but I mean, like myself or my uncle, if he put his name on that list, he would jump in his own rider with
Okay.
his own little trailer and he'd go down and do who's ever grass. I do the same thing. I drive mine all the way down past your house, past Cheese. I go down to Sam's.
Well, these are all considerations, like if for this volunteer list, that they have the ability to.
Well, some of them
Anyway,
won't have to have that.
let's
right?
coordinate, let's find out what the need is in the community, but that who don't, affordability and physical challenges, let's find out what that number looks like. And let's do some budget planning and let's get on with it, because really, I think, I think it's an essential service because we have West Nile virus. We don't want people getting sick from that, and that's in this area.
Yeah, because when you have long grass and you're an elder and you're sitting in your home and you can't get out to do it, you get depressed and get sick.
Stagnant water, and then if if you want them to be happy living in their homes, you can't have grass growing up to the windows and.
So I appreciate that, Sherry.
Numbers, we need to know numbers.
Okay, it's moved by Chris Brandt, and who'll second it to have this administrative review to determine the need and affordability?
Oh.
Linda? Okay. Anybody opposed? Motion's carried.
And if you hear of somebody that really needs a grass cut, I just bought a brand spanking new one. And,
Well, mine's not brand new, but I love my John Deere
my last
300.
one, my last John Deere, it lasted me 22 years. And I cut 7 acres 3 times a week. When I had that little golf course, it was only a 48-inch cut, but I was out there to cut. And it lasted me 22 years, and then I had to get a new one.
I would say the majority of the people on Ontario Works, ODSP, and an old age pension are going to fall in that need category.
And it's a very good chance they're already getting the service. So we need to
Yeah.
determine what is our true.
And there's 40, they said there's 40 or so they can service based on the budget they have and equipment. Okay, the next issue that do you want Tom to come in for the next issue? It's the tiny houses design build
It's the
project.
tender. So
Oh.
it's not necessary, I don't think, but
Okay.
if we have
I'll move,
questions.
chief. I'll move to accept the recommendation. Award a build all.
So the recommendation is to award the 6 tiny houses to build all contractors for $1,397. $1,397,261. Have housing project manager arranged to meet with Build All to request additional pricing for mechanical subtrades and local contractors for consideration. Approve the overall project budget that totals $3,676,803, and to approve MBQ's contribution of $1,721,203 from the housing budget, and the remaining $1,955,600 to come from Section 95 loan with CMHC. So you're approving all of those recommendations, Chris?
I'm approving the awarding of the contract.
Well, these other things have to be, is this all part of the contract? All of these items?
I think
It's all part of
bigger-
the project.
Yeah.
But is it part of Bill Dahl's contract? Do you
It's
appro-
the project entails his contract and then all of the funding that needs to
But, the-
come in
but items
place.
2, 3, and 4 are linked to this project.
Yes,
And that's 12 build in place and 2 modular units.
So the overall budget is going to be 3.6 million,
yeah,
and the council is contributing 1.7 million.
yeah. And the remaining to come from the loan, Section 95 loan from CMHC.
So to me, I think we need to approve all these items here, because otherwise you're going to have something that's half finished.
That's right.
Chris?
I was of the understanding that approval was already in place for those totals. I'm getting to it.
Well, it wouldn't be on the agenda, I don't think, if he didn't need approval.
No, this is just awarding the tender now.
Awarding the tender to meet with Bill Dahl to request additional pricing for the mechanical subtrades and the local contractors.
This says additional pricing for mechanical and subtrades.
Mhm.
So to me, that's in addition to the 1.3 million.
Yeah, and then because there's more involved, the
It's
budget,
because Tom has, in his quote, 2 non-native companies doing work, the plumbing and the HVAC, and they want it to be local companies doing the work, so he's got to go and get new prices from
Yeah.
local contractors to do the work instead of these 2 non-native companies.
so I'm just
Okay.
to address that a little bit, we do,
Okay.
I am receiving, other contractors coming in, asking questions around, awarding subcontracts to outside when we have local people to do this work. So that is a growing
But
issue.
it's availability too, because the local contractors are very busy themselves already. So is it gonna put the housing behind schedule just because we want to support local, and I'm all for supporting local, but if you've got somebody that cannot come in and install a furnace and
In the
whatever
time
the
frame.
heating in that particular
Yeah.
time frame, because they're already too busy on other jobs to be able to come, so that puts our projects behind.
Yeah.
So,
And the other side too, yeah, your general contractor, they have their own list of people that they work with all the time anyways.
yeah,
Can't even make them work with somebody else if they don't want to work with.
So just to clarify, so Tom is looking for additional pricing from other contractors. So because we see the total budget overall is 3.6 million. And the award to Bill Dahl is 1.3 million. But does the Bill Dahl contract include the mechanical and subtrades, or is that extra?
Okay, so we're gonna have to pull Tom in then to address it.
I was just looking at this other, it's the closing extended, and then the Bauer Housing Developments is 1.364, and Billdall's 1.397, which is $30,000 more, and then he's gonna go even higher with that, so it's gonna be over 2 million.
But part of the tender deal was that you have to hire as many unreserved contractors as possible.
Yes, that's,
Yeah.
But the second
yeah.
guy only hired Corey Merrick for the drywall and everybody else is aqua.
Who's Bauer Housing anyway?
I don't know.
It's an off reserve.
it's a Belleville contractor.
So
She's-
So, but other than there is no other, Homeland Construction was the only one that, Bauer Monument, Quinny Trace, Absolute General Contractors, what is this, Redum? They all bid on it, but there's only 2 of them from the reserve anyway, really. There's only Homeland Construction and Bill Dahl Contract.
Oh, only two
Well,
bid,
Point
yeah.
From
Trade
here.
Services from here.
From here.
No, Bauer
Yeah, I
and
know,
Build
but
All.
who-
We're the only two who put in bids.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, so Homeland didn't even
No.
put in a bid.
No,
So, good morning, Tom. How are you this morning?
Good,
Good afternoon,
good.
I should say. I hope we didn't pull you away from your lunch.
No, I just got back from the LTC site in
Okay.
CWC.
Okay, thanks.
So that's coming right along. I was down there the other day, drove down there to take a look. It's really coming along.
Yeah, both of them are moving pretty good.
So anyway, the council, there's been a motion table to award the contract to Build All, but items 2, 3, and 4, it says you're going to have additional pricing for mechanical sub-trades from local contractors for consideration. So the question was, does Build All's price, a 1.397261, include the mechanical and other trades that are needed?
Yes.
It's everything, right?
it's
So,
included.
so you're just seeing we can get a cheaper price?
I'd like to have if they are the successful candidate, I'd like to have conversations to see if we could look at getting some more pricing from local guys. See if we could increase the amount of content, and also just look, there was a pretty big discrepancy between the costs of one contractor from the other for that portion of the work.
Okay,
So just want to make clear that
so
that
then,
number's a good number, and
so then the overall budget is $3,676,803 is the overall budget to build 6 tiny houses, and Build All is going to charge $1,397,261 to build these houses, the houses. So what's the other 2 million for?
if you go to right before the recommendation, I think, is the budget. So you have
Okay.
construction, we're purchasing the 2 units, there's some engineering costs, there's contingency, some interest on the advance from the CMHC loan.
So it's not just the construction, it's the overall project.
The
So your
expenses
the construction 12 units, it says 6 here.
Yeah, 6 or 10 are 6 are being built by BPM.
Okay. So it's really 12 units then that he's dealing with.
14.
14 units, plus, okay, that makes sense then. And so we're approving 6, so the others have already been approved, right?
Pardon?
The other has already been approved. This here motion says to
This would
approve,
set the final
to
budget.
build 6 tiny houses.
So MBQ is building 6, the tender that we just did is for 6, and then we're purchasing 2 from AFLDC, or we've already purchased 2, but that'll be part of the same
Project.
Section 95
The
project.
modular homes.
Okay.
They're coming from the FLC.
Yeah.
right?
So that will be part of, okay, I got it. It's all of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I guess the motion will be then to award that to Build All then and to approve an overall budget for 14 units at $3,676,803. Is that correct, Tom?
Yeah. The
Yes.
overall budget.
3,676,803.
And that's for the 14 units, right?
14 units, yeah.
Okay. We'll just note that there.
What's the time frame?
So is that your motion then, Chris, to approve to award the 6 tiny houses to Build All?
Is
For-
it 6
for-
or 4?
6.
6 to build all.
It says 6 here. Construct contractors for $1,397,261, and to approve the overall budget for the 14 tiny house units at $3,676,803. Is that your motion?
Okay, well, I made the assumption that this project budget was previously approved of 3.6, so perhaps I'm wrong on that. And I thought we were just approving Build All's quote within the overall budget. I have a question though on Build All's. He's given some options on net zero, and it's anywhere from 25,000 to 135, 140,000 per house. So that's quite a variance, $500,000 on 4 tiny houses. Is the direction to get net zero ready or net zero certified?
Net zero ready, we asked for the provisional cost to see what it would take to get to net zero.
Net, so you expect
The
it
tender minimum is net zero.
ready, and then the options
We've asked
are
for
net.
provisional items just so that we could see what it would take to go, because our intent for the band ones is that we're going to meet the net zero.
Okay,
A
just,
question for you guys. What is this net zero? Like I don't.
It's a performance
Where
standard.
the the home would offset the amount of energy that it uses.
Okay.
So it's about being green, energy efficient.
More sustainable, tighter,
Okay.
better air exchanges.
And all these numbers are, we're not gonna foresee, an added, oh geez, there's, and
It's a
then,
risk for every project. I would be able to say that there's extras on every project.
is it? Well, it's just, we give, yeah, I could see it.
Would cost of material going up rapidly, all those things come into play.
Or when a designer
Okay.
misses something or doesn't detail it.
So the motion then-
clearly, and a contractor makes an assumption based on what the detail looks
So
like. and-
is there a history of like a certain amount, a certain percentage that is gonna go over? So we're looking at $1.397 million, and then all of a sudden it's like $2.5 million.
So every project budget, you'd have about, usually we use 10% for our contingency, and that's what.
That's
Okay,
contingency.
so we've already
Budgeted it, yeah,
okay.
for 10%. That's where we would want to see it coming
Okay.
in at no more than, some projects, unfortunately, though, get higher than 10%, but we do our best to avoid that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so then the motion should read then,
Chris has a question.
Chris, go ahead.
Is CMHC still using MUPs, maximum unit price, to determine their allocations? So then my question is, my experience of maximum unit price, if they're up to date, are usually pretty generous. Why are we looking at 1.7 million of MBQ money if we should be able to budget within CMHC's
Because
budget?
CMHC just gives us what they can. So it doesn't matter what I ask for at the beginning of the year under the expression of interest. They say, here, this is what you get in lifetime subsidy. And there's different things you can do to either change, make it so that you have more equity, less equity if you want to take it from the loan, but then that makes more on the operating side.
So are they saying?
You're within that box. That's the most that we can get. I went back and even had them bag
Yeah.
them and they increased it.
Yeah, so when they say this is the most you're gonna get, it's
most we're
based
gonna get.
upon X amount of houses though.
No,
5 houses, 10
no,
houses?
based
no?
upon X amount of lifetime subsidy.
Okay. Yeah, that's up
And a
to you.
minimum amount of units. So our minimum that we had to build for that lifetime subsidy was 3, I believe.
And where are these,
And we asked for 26.
where are the houses going and?
North Street and 2 from
Okay, that's
AFLDC will go to
what-
Tyendinaga.
So there is a lot of pressure about housing. There's a lot of homeless people. We need to get on with this work.
But see, that's where I'm going with that, Chief. I'm all for building energy efficient houses. At the end of the day, everybody benefits. But I'm not all for building Taj Mahals. Like, if we're gonna go net zero certified, that's just putting way too much good money after bad. It's not recoverable.
We're not doing it.
There's no return.
Okay, but is
We're
that,
net zero already, and that was what council had asked for.
Yeah,
in your last-
I'm not getting net zero already, because you can almost do that with no
Okay.
technology. As soon as you start engaging consultant, then all
We
of a
still have to
sudden-
engage the consultant regardless. The only difference is it won't have solar panels if we own.
the other thing, a lot of the programs, because
Envelope
of
is still
climate
the same amount
change,
of insulation, the windows are the same quality, it's still the same amount of testing and sealing. The only difference is the.
I guess I'm going, I don't want to say, yeah, I'm okay with then Tom Bildo charging us an extra 140,000 per unit just to get.
That's not
to
what's
net
in,
zero.
that's not what's being requested.
But I know, I'm just saying it's in there. I'm saying we don't entertain that though.
That's not what's being requested, yeah.
okay, the other thing with climate change, a lot of the projects now, the government is looking at
Yes.
things that are net zero because of the severe impact of climate
Net
change.
zero or reduction to greenhouse
And
gas
reduction of
emissions.
heating costs, so that's becoming more and more requirement of government funding.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if CMHC is there, but I know it's something that certainly is encouraged by CMHC to go net zero. And unfortunately, when you go net zero, you do have to have consultants.
Even when we
Also
go
net
on
zero
2000,
already, chief.
you still have to have it though at net zero ready. We still
I
have to
know,
have
I
it
know,
green
but then
energy.
once you start going for the gold, then you get more and more consultants, more complex design systems, and it just doesn't make sense.
Literally the difference of adding solar, wind, or geothermal.
Okay. But
Some form of renewable energy.
if the way CMHC conducts business now doesn't make sense, then council needs to have that discussion with Trim Kenyap and others at CMHC if there's a better way to do this. But it's something that we can't sort out because of these are their rules and this is their policy.
CMHC
CMHC
isn't
is
requiring
not
us to do
counted
net
that-
zero energy. Council wanted to proceed with a net zero energy subdivision.
Net
Okay,
zero
that's-
already.
Net zero ready, and that's what's being proposed
And there's
here.
a big difference between net zero ready and
Yes.
net zero certified.
And that's
Nobody's-
not where we're going. Ready,
This is the cost of getting net zero ready.
that's right. So,
which is about, by the looks of it, about $70 to $80 a square foot more than our 2,000. So we're about $100 more a square foot on this year's contracts versus last year's contracts. We're only our 2,000. However, though, you're going to have an increase from year to year. So let's assume maybe a $20 increase from year to year. So leaving it probably about an $80 increase by
So,
net zero
so
ready.
really, for the total budget is 3.6 million. And of that, we have to pay 1.7 million.
yeah,
The rest is CMHC subsidy, right?
CMHC loan.
So
Which
more
would-
than
which
half
is
of it is
subsidized.
CMHC
Then
subsidy
they give us an operating subsidy that helps to
to
offset.
have 14 units. So for a contribution of 1.7 million to get 14 units, that sounds like a good deal. The cost to MBQ.
and they're gonna
For
be
net zero, yeah,
well-built
yeah.
homes.
Now, how many units are we buying from LFTC?
Two.
Two, and they're 80,000.
150 for both of them.
How come the
75.
price jumped
75.
from 80 to 150?
Because we're buying two, so they're 75 each.
Per
Oh, so you-
unit.
Okay,
And then we still
75,
gotta
so
put the
that,
septic, the water, the hydro.
okay.
Is it cheaper for us to buy them off LDC, or is it cheaper to just build them?
We'll know after this go around.
Okay.
It's gonna be
Because,
cheaper
because
buying
I
them.
think I mean, we want to do, we want
I
to do
would
is,
think,
But they're also not net zero energy.
They're not
so
net
it's
zero.
kinda hard to-
Those 2 units are not net zero.
okay. Yeah, well, obviously, when you're gonna build something yourself, you're gonna build it right up to whatever we want it, but they're just building as.
So they're 75,000, let's add another 20,000 for the septic, another probably 12,000 for the water tank or water connection. You have the foundation, you've got.
There's
the
more to it.
Grading, fill,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
The property, electrical
Well,
services.
anyway, so,
But it's also helping them as a school.
Train.
Absolutely. I think it's a great relationship that we get.
Okay.
some
I
quick
was
units
just thinking for cost efficiency, if it's gonna be, a little bit cheaper, or even if it's a little tiny bit more expensive, then we go with them for more units.
True.
In the future.
some of the counselors have indicated at the beginning, maybe they have to leave at a certain hour, so let's get on with business. Decisions have to be made, if we're gonna build this, you know what the budget is,
Are
you know, they're net zero ready,
Yeah.
this is what it costs.
So Chris, you're sticking with your motion?
So
Well, I just asked for some clarity.
Yeah.
Are we running the hot 2000s in-house? Is Rick running them? Or do we do a little number exercise? I'll say $250,000 to build this tiny house.
We're gonna have a green energy consultant involved. I don't know if it's the hot modeling because that's our 2000, but it may be the same for net zero. I'd get back to you after I talk to Rick.
But
So
it-
what
but-
I want
but-
with this is that you spend $250,000 for a little tiny house to do some upgrades. How much are we spending to increase the efficiency by 20-30%? Are we spending like another 100,000 per house when we could have got another small house?
Are you
Because
saying-
there comes a point.
I don't get what you're asking me though. Are you asking me to,
Was there?
could we not build or should we
No,
not
no,
build
no,
net zero?
no. I'm just wondering if there was some quick number crunching to say, okay, it's gonna cost $250,000, we implement these energy efficiency upgrades, they're gonna cost us 50, we're gonna save 1,000 a year, 200 a year. Like usually you do an exercise to say, is it
No,
worth our while to do this?
council asked for a net zero energy subdivision.
So nobody's
this is what we're
crunching any costs.
providing.
though. Nobody's crunching any costs though to see how viable this is?
Well, it's hinging on funding
Shelley?
as well, Chris.
That wasn't what was asked. That was asked to build it.
Okay, Shelley?
There's a motion to sign the MHC Section 95 loan agreement in the amount of $1,955,600 to build 12 net zero ready tiny homes and purchase 2 tiny homes for emergency accommodation.
So the motion was at 1 point, and now it's 1.7, so it's less than what the motion is.
No,
It's all CMHC.
that's all that CMHC is providing us with. It's right in that.
So typically you'll do an exercise. If I'm gonna go buy a new car, I'm gonna buy this one because it's more energy efficient than that one, so I'll pay a bit more if I get more miles per gallon from this one. You do an exercise.
How am I supposed to
and
do
I'll
that
have-
though with contractor pricing? I don't have their pricing for net zero energy. We've never done net
Okay.
zero energy before.
Sherry, this motion says here MBQ's contribution is 1.7 million of the 3.6 million. Is this briefing note accurate? I presume it is. What's on the agenda? So already CMHC and the 1.9 million was how much? What was that for? From CMHC or
To
from the
come
band?
from
That's the loan, yeah.
the loan from CMHC.
1.9, okay. So it's already been moved, so the council has acted, the staff has acted on that motion, and here it is.
The motion, we've been working on a net zero subdivision since Chris mentioned it for
So-
over at the Seed Sanctuary 2.5 years ago.
Let's
So,
get it done.
I hear you,
I
let's
think
get her
that's-
done.
so Chris, is that your motion then to approve these items then?
Yeah, but just moving forward, I'll be more cognizant of what I'm approving, like to say, let's
You're
get that
approving all
already.
these items here, you're approving to
I
give,
know, but then it comes back to bite me in the butt. I didn't anticipate it being achieved by a certain direction, so.
A contractor, it was,
No, not the contract, just
you
the
did,
whole process.
your motion was
though.
for BPM not to build the 12 and only to build 6. So that requires a contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
realize.
And we didn't think that the contractor was gonna be more money than
Yeah,
BPM.
no, I'm not trying to get my head around when we go net zero already, okay, X amount, but we go full net certified.
We're not going full net zero.
I know.
Okay.
I know, but
so to be clear, Build All is going to build 6 tiny houses for $1,397,261. That is going to include all the mechanical and the sub-trades, correct? For the
Turnkey.
6.
Turnkey.
Turnkey, but that includes everything,
Correct.
okay? And then we're approving a budget of $3,676,803 for 14 units, which includes the 6 that Build All's built, correct?
We're building 14 houses, yep.
And then the MBQ contribution for all of it is $1,721,203 for all 14 units, correct?
Correct.
And that's what council's making a motion
And
to
what
approve.
also technically also includes the services for 2 more tiny houses in Shannon.
Yeah. So is that part of your motion then, Chris?
If Chris, if you're gonna keep the motion, I'll second the motion. If you don't, well, then I'll motion that we award it to Build All. It's, you've been working on it for a couple years, 2.5 years. Let's get some houses out there. Let's put some families in the houses.
Is that your motion then,
Oh,
Chris?
no, family, only 1 bedroom.
Yeah, Chris said yes. Are you seconding it, Chris?
Chris is moving.
family.
Okay, I'll second that.
That's my job to tell who's moving, okay?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Moved by Chris,
Yeah,
and it's the 2 Chris's. Chris Miracle is mover, Chris Brandt is seconding. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried.
yeah, we'll get some people.
Thank
in
you
the
very
house.
much. You can get on with that.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Now, the other thing, the next item is the Association of Iroquois multi-program letter of agreement, and then there's a number of programs that we're getting through AI. There's like a flow through from the government onto us. Mental wellness team funding, $56,250. Senior survey capacity building, $10,000. Responsible gambling, $17,000. Opioid funding, $9,659. Ending violence against Indigenous women, $30,000. Human trafficking, $11,883. Indigenous victim services, $22,000. And the recommendation is that council recognize the AI letter of agreement for multiple programs and services in the total amount of $156,792 and approve to sign the agreement. Is there a motion?
I will move.
Linda and Awari. Is anybody opposed? Motion is carried. The Allen Pratt invoices. The Allen Pratt invoices for June 2024, invoice number 6295. The Culberson Track, $6,252. Year to date is $48,236.27. Fiscal year to date is $42,268.31. Invoice 6296, Turton Pen loss of use, $368.50. Year to date, $1,295.50. Fiscal year to date, $1,295.50. Is there a motion to pay these invoices?
I'll motion, Chief.
I'll second, Chief.
Aguirre and Curtis. Is anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. There's some add-ons that came in this morning. And the one add-on is that Councilor Chris Miracle is making a recommendation to increase the mortgage maximum amount to $400,000.
I think there needs to be some discussions with Seaville and housing and see if the Seaville.
I agree. I'd like to see
So-
what the financial
yeah.
impact is gonna be.
Chief?
Yes, go ahead, Chris.
That's come up a couple times with previous councils, and items came from the staff saying it's upwards to $450,000 to build a house now. I highly recommend that Cecil have a look at it, but at the end of the day, it's a matter of just simply transferring some money from our bank account over to housing. And again, I'd like to have the council address these people when they say to me, Chris, how do you think it's okay for you guys to spend $600,000 for 2-bedroom rentals? I'm a working professional, my wife's a working professional. At the time, we can only borrow $278. So this is the first time I put this on the agenda. And again, it behooves me how we can spend upwards to $600,000 for social housing, and working couples cannot borrow enough. An option is to go to the bank, but then the bank can't lend them enough, and you go to the bank, guess what? Guess who's guaranteeing the loan? We are. So why would we want to guarantee loans for someone else to make all the gravy when we can lend out the money that's needed, and we're not lending enough to build a half-decent house? It's plain and simple.
Oh, it's all fair and good, but if we ain't got money to give them, we
We
can't.
do have money. We do have money. If we can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars transferring from our housing program, comes from mortgage payments, to subsidize social housing by building nicer houses, sure the heck we can lend out people, community members, to build the house they need and want.
Well, I still think it's prudent to have the staff
That's fine.
review it,
No,
and
Conditional upon,
I think there's 5 million in the housing budget, the housing portfolio, the loan program that I think I saw in the audit. So there is money there, but is it going to be sustainable in the long run?
yeah, we have money in the bank too, chief.
And council still hasn't decided what they're going to do with the Turton Pen issue either,
This is in public, I hope.
or the partial settlement on Culberson. Is that there was a strong suggestion that housing be part of it? But again, I guess when you look at housing, it has to be for the whole community, not just the ones who have high incomes. And right now, how many people would qualify to borrow from the bank under their criteria? And they use the same criteria, by the way, for our program. So really, you have to have a high income to be able to afford the $400,000 mortgage. And maybe a lot of them do. I don't know.
And what is it?
It's gotta be able to, the people have to be able to.
Demonstrate affordability.
afford
Absolutely.
So
Paying the money back.
Okay.
Or-
Chris, are you suggesting not capping it and just go by affordability?
No, I'm not saying that.
Because
I'm
then
saying-
it opens up to people being able to come and get a mortgage based on their affordability, what they can afford, and housing costs are going up for construction. I agree. But you can build a fairly decent home for, it depends on needs and wants, right? And so we also have to look at how much can we afford to put out there. So the more we are able to let people ask for and get, reduces the number that we can
All right.
give. So we have to think of that as well.
Okay, Chris?
Again, I'm pretty confident we have money in our investments, money in the bank accounts. And again, I'm asking for any counselor to step up and justify spending $600,000 for a rental. But young professional couples who went to school, worked hard,
Chris,
we're not gonna let you both.
Chris, I'm not aware of we spending 600,000 on one rental property.
Well, how much were the 2 bedrooms on,
I'd have to ask Tom, but there's no way we've spent that much money.
okay, well,
I think maybe in the area of
Okay.
3 something, but not six.
Okay,
Well, that's in the area of 5.5.
Okay, let's not guess at it. Let's
For
not
two
guess at things. If
Yeah, I
if you-
think that to put that number out there is misleading because
Okay, bring back a report on what the costs were, then we know we have some concrete information, because I don't want to guess at it or surmise, okay?
right. So you want that now?
No, just-
For $293 per square foot, total cost is $366,400 per unit.
Per unit. So not 600, Chris, per unit.
I'll do some research and I'll bring back some numbers.
Okay, but before you do, make sure you do your research before you come to council, so we don't have to go back and just research things. If that's the way it is, fine, we'll have that discussion, but let's look at some real numbers instead of guessing at it. The other thing was, so do you want the council, the staff to review this, or do you want to approve it now? Chris, what's your motion?
I'll let my motion stand, chief, and if you don't have a seconder, fine, or a motion, once this finance confirm that we have millions of other accounts to transfer it.
So you're asking to increase mortgages to a minimum of
No, to a
400,000?
max, not a minimum, a
Oh,
max.
because it says minimum on here.
Max 400K minimum.
Okay. Yeah, maximum 400, it says maximum 400K.
What is it at now?
350.
340?
And I got young couples coming saying, we can't do it with that budget. We can't do it, Chris, and how do you justify you spending
Okay, and
X amount for rentals?
And do they want like 100% financing?
I'd like to see the numbers because I
Yeah.
don't
I agree.
feel that, because I just
Well,
had
these
a
ones were just in the-
relative build a house and it didn't cost them 600,000. And they have 4 kids.
Like I say,
Yeah, these prices are what it costs, what they paid on the Upper Slash project and Orange project, right in the last briefing note from the tiny ones.
Okay, let's,
Yeah.
so the motion, Chris wants to have the finance director determine if there's money in the bank to increase the mortgages to $400,000.
Well, currently the mortgages, that's all been utilized already. We've already approved 11 mortgages, I believe. 11 mortgages, so that money,
This would be for next
the funding that we had for this year is already allocated. So if you want to consider this, it would
Already.
need to be for the next.
It will apply to everything, so the
Okay.
ban increases
Okay,
but again.
so the BMO
But
contribution.
again, they have to go through the regular criteria to
Yes.
demonstrate affordability. Just because you increase it to 400,000 doesn't mean that everybody wants $400,000 can
Or
get it.
can afford it, yeah.
Not
You have
saying
to
that.
demonstrate affordability.
Absolutely.
So it's moved by Chris, and the finance directors determine if this is affordable to MBQ in the long run.
I'll second, just as long as we get that information from Cecil.
So we're just gonna look into some more, okay.
We have money in the bank, and council can decide how it's going to be spent,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
There are investments.
It won't hurt just to up it. I mean, everything is going up in prices.
and
Yeah.
COVID has impacted the cost of building everything.
Well, it is, if somebody else is building it, absolutely. Maybe you build it yourself.
Okay, so the direction has been given, been moved by Chris Miracle and seconded by Linda Levine, that the finance director advise council on the affordability of increasing mortgages to 400,000.
Because we've never made a decision on any monies that we spend unless we knew what the financial impact was.
Yeah.
So why are we not doing it on this exercise? That's all I'm asking.
And I guess you want the housing director to be involved in that or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Chris?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the housing director. Okay. So that is it for our, so the upcoming meetings on the next, today's, it's that it has to go in private.
Oh, okay.
So July the 23rd to 25th, I have the Chiefs Committee on Housing. July the 24th, we have local business. August the 7th, we have the regular council. August the 14th, we have local business. August the 21st, we have regular council. August 28th is local business. So that concludes, just let me see here. Oh, I did have a call from a community member asking about the partial settlement on Culberson. And I told them at the council, it was still under discussion at council, what was going to be done, we do with the money. We've consulted the community. And so I'd like to see that put on the next council agenda, Sherry.
I'm sorry.
Partial settlement, because we've consulted the community, but the council's not provided any direction since we had that committee.
So you want that on the next
Yeah,
agenda?
the partial settlement. It's been, we've talked about it, but we haven't decided anything.
Yeah, true.
So we motion then to go in private. Let me see here. What else is here?
Are you ready?
Camera. Kim Reynolds is coming in at 1 o'clock. Okay, let's motion to go in private.
I'll move.
Moved by Linda.
Second.
Curtis, motion's carried. And we will now break. I'd like to thank everybody who's joined us online. And the council's made a motion to go in private at 12:54. We'll break now for